Ryan Walters' era was an absolute disaster at Purdue. Walters went just 5-19 in 2 years with the program, including a 1-11 record last year. A season where many thought Purdue could take a small step forward, but instead took a major step back. Now it's a new era in West Lafayette. Barry Odom, stepping in as the new head coach, was mediocre during his time at Missouri, but worked wonders during his time as head coach at UNLV, where he went 20-8 over the last 2 seasons with back-to-back Mountain West title appearances, and again was 1 win away from making the college football playoff just last season. So this was a phenomenal hire. Odom back at the Power 4 level. Purdue getting a guy that has been proven as a head coach, a guy who has great energy. The players love him, but will it translate to success in year 1? Simply put, it won't. It's going to take time. And here's why. Take a look at the offense. Purdue doesn't really have anybody, right? This is a team that saw a mass exodus after Ryan Walters was let go. Mass exodus through the transfer portal, mass exodus through the transfer portal. Then after the spring, another mass exodus out of the program. Purdue is dealing with over 28, right now over 30 transfers coming into the program for a team that lost 11 straight games last year and only 3 of those coming by 1 possession. Offensively, only 3 guys are back. They average just 15.8 points per game and less than 300 yards per game. Purdue's offense eclipsed 21 points 2 times last year. That's it. They scored over 21 points 2 times last year. That's absolutely horrendous. Now they've got a quarterback battle going on. Probably going to be Ryan Brown, who was with the program last year, threw for over 500 yards, decided to transfer to North Carolina with Bill Belichick, and then decided he wanted to come back to Purdue after all. So Ryan Brown probably going to get the nod, but don't sleep on Malachi Singleton, the transfer from Arkansas. A lot of talent there. Could be a big star for Purdue if he ends up getting the job. The star, though, of the offense is Devin Mockabee, a true Boilermaker, a true loyal player. Rushed for over 680 yards and 4 touchdowns last year. He's kind of the do-it-all guy for Purdue, but he can't do it all by himself. They need some pass catchers. They lose their top 5 pass catchers from last year. The offensive line only has a combined 48 starts. A lot of issues on the offensive side of the ball. I think they can average more than 15.8 points per game, but it might not be enough to win a lot more games. Defensively, that's Barry Odom's strength, right? He's a defensive-minded coach. 5 starters are back from one of the worst defenses in the country. Purdue giving up nearly 40 points per game last year and over 450 yards per game. They now lose their top 14 tacklers from last season, but do bring in some solid transfers. Guy like Manny Powell coming in at linebacker from UNLV, following Barry Odom. Cornerback Tony Grimes also followed Barry Odom from UNLV. And Crew Walkley coming in from safety from BYU. The secondary gave up over 250 passing yards per game. That needs big-time help. But the rushing defense, the guys up front, need even more help after giving up over 200 rushing yards per game. So all in all, Purdue is a major work in progress. Some would say, well, maybe they're going to strike gold through the transfer portal, kind of like Indiana did. Indiana brought in tons of transfers last year and made the college football playoff. I don't see the same really happening now for Purdue. They don't have as many great transfers like Indiana had, and they've got a much more difficult schedule. Take a look at what the Boilermakers are up against. I do think they start 2-0, right? I do think they're going to start 2-0 with a win over Ball State and Southern Illinois. I think those games are going to be closer than maybe Boilermaker fans would like. I think they'll be a little bit more competitive than they'd like, but that's to be expected when you're facing teams that maybe have a little bit more experience, a little bit more leadership, compared to a team in Purdue that, yes, is a Power 4 program, but does have a new coach. It does have a lot of new faces and plenty of young faces to go along with that. So I do think they start 2-0, though. So that's huge. They've already exceeded last year's win total. They have doubled last year's win total, actually. 5 wins in the last 2 years, 1 win last year. Purdue's already got 2 by the end of week 2. But then after that, they enter Big Ten conference play with the exception of the road game at Notre Dame, obviously being in the non-conference. And, to keep things short and simple, and I think that's what they need to be, Purdue will lose out. And I hate to say that, but I think that's the simplest way of putting it. They lost 11 straight games at the end of last year. They're going to lose 10 straight games to end 2025. Look at that schedule and find me a win for the Boilermakers. Maybe they can beat Northwestern. Maybe you think they could beat Rutgers at home on October 25th. That is it. They are not going to beat USC, who has tons of talent and was much better than their record showed last year. They're not going to beat that great of an offense led by Jaden Mayava and his top 2 receivers coming back and an improving defense. They're not going to beat Notre Dame, the national runner-up from last year. Notre Dame beat the Boilermakers 66-7 And Purdue certainly not going to go on the road and do it in South Bend. Then they come out of the bye week and they play Illinois. They're going to lose that game, even though they almost beat Illinois last year. They rallied from a 24-point deficit, trailed 27-3, actually took a 43-40 lead with under a minute left, but allowed Illinois to tie it, then ultimately lost 50-49 in overtime. So that was probably, even though it was a loss, maybe the best game for Purdue last year. Showed a lot of heart, showed a lot of fight, but still not enough to get the win over a good Fighting Illini squad. And now, even with the week of rest, Illinois has been better than they were last year, and I guarantee they're not going to overlook or sleepwalk through this one, kind of like they did last year. So Purdue falls there. They're going to lose to Minnesota, a team who has a very strong defense once again and a very underrated offense, especially if Drake Lindsey ends up panning out. They go on the road to Northwestern. We mentioned that could be a win. Last year, they played the Wildcats close, lost 26-20 in overtime, so it's certainly winnable, but I think Northwestern's better at every spot in this game. They've got Preston Stone coming in at quarterback from SMU, an underrated running back core, a very underrated defense that returns 8 starters, plus home field advantage. Just don't see him taking down the Wildcats on the road. Rutgers has arguably the best team they've had yet under Greg Schiano, and they're going to need to win every winnable game they have if they want to go bowling because their schedule's very difficult. I don't see Schiano having his team sleepwalk through this one. I just don't see Purdue having enough to take down the Scarlet Knight squad. No shot against Michigan. No shot against Ohio State. I really don't think they have a shot against Washington either, who's going to be a very good team. Very good team whose record might not show it, but has a lot of talent, certainly. Damon Williams is a fantastic quarterback. Jonah Coleman's a 1,000-yard rusher. Don't see the Purdue defense having anything and any answer against that elite offensive duo. They come out of the bye week. They take on Indiana. In-state rivalry game, right? And they lost 66-0 last year. The largest margin of defeat, the most lopsided result in this rivalry game's history. They lost to the Hoosiers by 66 points. I think they lose by less this year. I think they might even score a touchdown, maybe even a field goal. They'll score something, right? But they're going to lose to Indiana, a team who is just once again loaded through the transfer portal. Kurt Cignetti, a fantastic coach, got this team in position to maybe make the playoff again. Purdue simply does not stand a chance. So I don't mean to be harsh. I do not mean to be blunt and quick, but the fact of the matter is Purdue has a long ways to go. This is a massive rebuilding project with a lot of key new pieces, with a head coach that was phenomenal at UNLV, but how will he pan out back in the Power 4 level? Barry Odom was only mediocre during his time at Missouri. I think he's a great hire. I think he could be the right man for the job, but they've got to give him time. This is not a quick fix. Not at all. He is not a miracle worker. Purdue, 2-10, winless in Big Ten conference play yet again. It'll make it just 7 wins in the last 3 years, but I do believe better and brighter days are ahead for the Boilermakers. So guys, as always, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and of course, check out everything down in the description below. That includes our website, thegridironexpert.com, home to those expert picks, home to our weekly newsletters, home to tons of exclusive content that you do not want to miss out on so that you can become a member of our GE Nation today. Again, the link for all that down in the description below. And once again, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on the Gridiron Expert.